Oh, I was born in Oklahoma City on 19 May 1919.
Nice. And
I'll be 95 this year.
oh,
Congrats.
And I grew up on a farm during the Big Depression of 1929, where we had very little food. My dad abandoned the family. He, well, that's another story. And before, when I was about 4 years old, my mom was on her way to church with me in her arms, and we were struck by a drunk driving doctor. I thought everybody thought I was going to die, and my mom never walked again. I had an older brother and 3 older sisters. I was the youngster of the group. And we made do. I was about 10, 12 years old by this time, and I knew how to fire a weapon. We had a good neighbor who was a hunter who taught me how to shoot, because our only source for food were rabbits. So I'd go out and shoot as many rabbits as I could, which was hard to do in the snow because they're white during the wintertime. And I tried to get at least 5 or 6 to make everybody happy.
how were you entered into the service? Like, were you drafted or enlisted?
Later on, when I became a teenager, about 13, 14 years old, an airplane flew over the farm, and I was so excited about it that on the weekend, after my chores were done, I went to the local grass strip. There was no runway. You could land any direction you wanted to on the grass and dirt. And it was sort of a huge hangar type of a thing that housed probably 15 or 20 airplanes. And I started hanging around the airport. The mechanics knew that I was fatherless, so they sort of took an interest in me, and they were teaching me about airplanes, the engines, and the airframe, and the instruments. And I had developed, and I was just soaking this knowledge up. Well, there were no jobs to have when you're approaching 18. And I had to get out on my own. So I moved to San Diego, got a job. With that experience, I got a job at building bombers, B-24 bombers. And tried to join the Air Force, but I was colorblind, and they wouldn't take me. But when I went into the military from San Diego, I was a rifleman. I was trained to kill the enemy with my bare hands or any weapon.
How did you adapt to like military life, like physical regimen and food and social life?
I remember basic training. I had this one sergeant that he was stern, but he was very fair. And he and I got along great. Well, I had no desire to dominate people, so I was not a sergeant. I was just one of the guys. My job was to be at the head of the column, so that's where I was, and that's where my responsibility and authority ended as far as I was concerned.
Where did you go and what was it like there?
I first saw battle in northern France, as I mentioned earlier. And then my outfit was the first to liberate Holland, and the first to liberate Belgium, and the first to invade Germany. And with all of our units, we had plenty of troops coming ashore by the thousands by this time. And we were moving so fast that we were ready for the enemy to surrender, because we were overpowering them. And but when we got to Belgium, it was a very severe winter. The temperatures were minus 30 degrees, and snow and ice, and I developed frostbite in my feet. The GI boot was leather, and the snow, you'd be walking through the snow and it would melt, and your boots were leather and soaking it up. And then I had walking pneumonia, so the medics shipped me off to a hospital. And we were off the line anyway because the enemy was, as far as we were concerned, the war was going to be over by Christmas, 1944. And the rumor was going wildly, yeah, we're going to be home by Christmas. Well, on the 16th of December 1944, thousands of enemy panzers, and they pulled their armies out of Russia in order to create what Hitler thought would be his one last grand grasp to subdue us and sue for peace so that he would be able to retain his powers and his territory. Well, that didn't happen. The bulge occurred and we had total chaos. The enemy would be overrunning men, and in the little village of Malmedy we had 100 men in our small anti-aircraft group who were captured, and they were being marched back to a prison camp in Germany when our research later learned the names of the attacks. And it was Major Plitschke in the Panzer column pushed these troops off, our troops off the road so his Panzer column could move through. And for some reason, the enemy opened fire. Nobody knows what caused, probably just in the sheer brutality of their methods at that time. But they opened fire on, here we were 100 of our guys there, unarmed, and 86 of them were massacred. The other guys escaped by running through the forest. Like anything, there's always survivors to tell about those things. And then they massacred, as they went through the balls, instead of taking pictures of the prisoners, they would massacre the guys. But we stood firm. We had 6 medals of honor that occurred in that area. And I can tell you in vivid detail what each one of my guys did to receive that. And this is my division patch. They called us Old Hickory because during the War of 1812 and 1813, my great-great-grandfather, quite coincidentally, was a colonel in General Andrew Old Hickory Jackson's army at that time. And I have 2 of those. This is a Purple Heart for wounds, and this is a theater ribbon. And you'll notice the 3 bronze stars here. One is for Northern France campaign. One is for the Ardennes, which was the Battle of the Bulge. And the other one is for the Rhineland. And this one is our occupation troops. The bar across here, they're still using this as today as occupation. And they put a bar across here that tells you which country, in this case, Germany. And this is a victory medal showing that we won the war. And this is a good conduct medal. I didn't earn that. I was not a good soldier. I was too independent. Sometimes I got into trouble for telling a lieutenant how wrong we were. And these are my weapons skills. And these were earned in training. And this is a Belgian fourragere for the Battle of the Bulge.
Or how did you manage to stay in touch with your family and friends?
They had email. Well, not email, it's called V-email. And we wrote back and forth. Of course, during the Battle of the Bulge, there was totally no supplies for the generals. This is one of the best tools I had. This is very dull. The one when I used it in combat, it was as sharp as a razor. I never used it on a human being, but I used it to probe for mines. The enemy had several different mines. Of course, it's the old canteen there with our water supply. They had mines that were made out of wood and plastic and glass. Can you imagine a glass mine exploding? They would never find all the shredded glass in your body. But on those that we couldn't detect, but yet we knew they were there because some of our guys had already stepped on them, we would come in and slide it into the dirt sideways, and we'd hit the edge of it instead of hitting the detonator.
As a person, how did serving in the war, how has it changed you? Like, yeah, how has it changed you?
Once you go through a war, you find out who you really are. It's such a fine line between cowardice and courage. Did I run? Yes, I did. My first day in combat, I was scared. Fear. And the first thing you have to do is conquer your fears. And I was able to do that. And